Hello, and thank you for purchasing the Image Masonry Gallery Shopify section by qwiqode. In this video, I'll be showing you how to use it. With this section, you can add multiple images in a form of a masonry gallery similar to this layout. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna hide this one. Okay, to get started, we can go to the images on the left sidebar and let's add some images. We can add an image here. Okay, and you also have the image link. And with this, you can add a link to a collection or a product or any page on your store. But in this case, I'm gonna leave it blank because I want my section to just open the image like this on a pop-up. But if you want to use an image link, you can do it using this field. Okay, I'm gonna add more images and speed up the process. Okay, by default, the section has 6 images, but you can add as many as you like by clicking in here at the bottom or in between images, this plus icon. So for example, if I click here, we add a new block to add the image. Let's add one more. Okay, now that we have the images, let's go to the section settings to style the section. Okay, and here we have the grid styling. And the first option is the grid layout. And by default is set by image max width. So that means that this width will be determined by this field. For example, if I edit this, you'll see that the images will flow like that. So that's by using the image max width. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at 280. But you can also use by columns, and when using by columns, you can control how many do you like. For example, that's 3 or 2, like this, using this field. Okay, but I really like the effect of using image max width, so I'm gonna leave it like this. Then we have the gap between rows, and with this, we control this distance over here. Okay, so right now it's 10, but if you want to make more room between them, you can use this field. So maybe we can leave it at 20, okay? And then we have the gap between columns. It's the same, but this distance over here. So we can adjust this to control it. Okay, next we have the same options for mobile. So if we see it on mobile, we can control these columns or by image max width. For example, if I make it bigger, it will be like this. Or if I make it smaller, it'll be like this. But maybe that's too small. I think this is fine. Okay, then we have the gap between rows and gap between columns. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at 10 each. Let's go back to desktop. Next, we have the grid item settings. And the first option is the grid item click action. Okay, by default is to open the pop-up. So for example, if I click on an image, it will look like this, okay? But you can also select open custom link, and this is in case you added a custom link in here on the block, okay? For example, on this one, we added a link to all collections. So if we select here, open custom link, instead of opening the pop-up, it will go to that link. You can also select open custom link in a new tab, or you can also select to be none. But on this example, I'm gonna leave it at open pop-up, okay? Next, we have the hover effect, and by default it's enabled, so that means that it will create this effect, but if you disable this, there's no effect. Then we have the grid item border radius, and right now it's 20, but you can select it to be more, like this, or 0, but on this example, I'm gonna leave it at 20. Next, we have the image dimensions, and we have multiple options. By default is original, but you can also select to be landscape, portrait, okay, square, horizontal, or vertical. But on this example, I'm gonna leave it as original because I really like the difference between the heights of the images. Next, we have the section styling, and the first option is section width. So right now it's full width, but you can also select it to be regular. So when using full width, this controls the content max width. So for example, let's add a background color to the section like this. Okay, so right now the section is full width, okay, but the content will stay within the 1280 dimensions. But if you want the content to expand all the way, you can enable this real full width. So when this is enabled, this will be ignored. For example, it says full width, it will expand all the way, okay? Okay, but on this example, I'm gonna leave it disabled because I want to keep this grid over here. That's when using full width. But if you want to use regular width, this field over here will control the whole section width. Okay, for example, if I expand this, you'll see that this is not expanding all the way like before. It's the whole width of the section. But I really like the effect of full width with this over here at 1280, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Next, we have the section background color. You can select any color that you like. I'm gonna leave it that one. Then we have the section border radius, and this controls the curves around the edges of the section. Okay, for example, if I increment this, it will create this effect. Next, we have the section top and bottom margin, and this is the outside distance of the section. So right now it's 20, but if you want to make more room, you can adjust this fill, and the same at the bottom. You can adjust this fill to control this distance between this section and other sections on the page. Next, we have the section horizontal margin, and this is only available when using regular on section width. For example, if I use regular in here, okay, let's say our section is 1500. So this section horizontal margin controls this distance over here. Okay, so if I increment this, you'll see that margin over here. So this controls this outside distance. But because I'm using full width, we can ignore this. So I'm gonna keep it like this. Next, we have the section top, bottom, and horizontal padding. And while the margin is the outside distance, the padding is the inside distance. Right now it's 20, but if I increment this, you can make more room inside the section. Okay, the same at the bottom. If I increment this, we're adding more room over here. And the same on the sides. If I increment this, I'm making more room inside the section. But I really like the default, so I'm gonna keep it at 20 on all of them. Next, we have the same settings for mobile: top, bottom, and horizontal margin, and top, bottom, and horizontal padding. Next, we have the pop-up settings, and the first option is to preview the pop-up. So when this is enabled, you can see this window, okay, without triggering any images. So this is good when toggling these settings over here, so you can control the styling. And the first option to control the styling is the background color. So right now it's like a black color with opacity of 50%, but you can increment this to make it a little darker like this, or all the way like that. But I really like the effect around 50, so I'm gonna leave it like this. Next, we have the pop-up close icon color, which is this one over here. So you can control that color using this field. Next, we have the pop-up image styling, and the first option is the image dimensions. And this is in case you want to use a different size inside the pop-up than the size outside the pop-up. You can select it using this field. For example, if I want to make the image inside a square, and I'm gonna disable this for a moment to see the effect. So for example, this image is landscape on the outside and want to use square, you'll see it square on the inside. Okay, so you can control those dimensions using this field. But for now, I'm gonna leave it as original. Okay, next we have the pop-up image border radius, and right now it's 20, but you can adjust this. For example, if you want to create the effect outside but not inside, you can control that border radius in here. Next, we have the pop-up image max width. So right now it's 80%, but you can select it to be 100% like this. So you can control how big the image looks inside the pop-up. Okay, and then you have the same for mobile. Next, we have the pop-up arrow styling. And the first option is to enable them so we can see them. But if you want to disable them, you can select using that field and you won't see the arrows. But on this example, I'm gonna leave it enabled. Okay, next we have the styling settings for the arrows, and the first option is the line color, which is this one inside. Okay, so you can select a different color, maybe something like this. Okay, so you can update it using that field, and maybe on the outside we can make them white like this, so you can customize those colors. Okay, but in case you have custom arrows, you can add them using this field. Okay, so you can add your own. Right now I don't have a previous one, but I added this to show you. But on this example, I'm gonna leave them blank because I want to use the default ones like this. Next, we have the arrow opacity and hover. So when this is enabled, you create this effect. Okay, but you can also disable it if you like. Okay, and then you have the pop-up arrows distance from edge. So right now this is the edge. The arrows are 20 pixels from here. Okay, but if you want to increment this, you'll see the arrows closer to the middle. And down here you have the same option for mobile, so you can control it on both. Okay, and at the end we have a section class option, and this is for advanced users. This is in case you want to share the same class name between the sections. Let's say that on your store with a class, you're controlling the styling for the images that maybe it's called image border. If you have that class on the section, and let's say you have custom CSS that says that all the images with image border have a border of 4 pixels solid red. For example, you can add that class in there. For example, I have another section here, and if I add the same class, you'll see that it's grabbing the same styling. So this is for advanced users, so you have that option if you like. Okay, but on this example, I don't need it, so I'm gonna remove it and leave it like this. I really like how it looks, so I'm gonna save it. And that's it. Thank you again. If you have any questions or if you run into any issues, please don't hesitate to contact us via our support page on our website. Thank you again and take care.